the regular meeting of the South San Antonio Independent School District. Today is Wednesday, October 18, 2017, and the time is 6 p.m. Mrs. Martinez, could you please call roll call?
Mrs. Angelina Oseguin.
Present.
Mr. Luis Ibarra Jr.
Present.
Mrs. Linda Longoria. Mrs. Leticia Guerra. Here. Mrs. Connie Prado.
Present.
Mrs. Helen Magda Prather. Mrs. Elda Flores.
Present.
Before we go into the Pledge of Allegiance, the Texas Pledge, the prayer, and the call to action, board members, I'd like to change the order of the agenda. I'd like to begin with citizens to be heard, then go into the presentation reports of the leader in me, so that our students can get recognized, and then we can send them home because it is a school night. And do y'all have any objections to that? Okay, so if I could, we could stand for a pledge of allegiance.
Our pledge tonight will be led by Valerie Toretto, a 5th grader at Getty Elementary. Her teacher says she's a model student and exhibits wildcat pride at all times and in all areas of school, that she has strong leadership skills and is a role model to all her classmates. Valerie's academics are above average. She's an avid reader, and she helps her teacher and peers with any task. Great job, Valerie, and thank you so much for doing our pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Please bow your heads. Lord, we are meeting today to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance tonight. Amen. And now the call to action.
All students will enjoy successful education experiences to empower them to make decisions and enrich their lives in the future they create.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Can I have the citizens to be heard? Stacy Alderete. Before you begin, Stacy, I'd like to have the lawyer say the portion that's reserved for the public comments.
Yes, Madam President. First of all, thank you for being here. There's a quick paragraph of instruction that we'd like to share on behalf of the board. At a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, members of the public will have the opportunity to address the Board of Trustees during this section on any agenda item or any subject within its jurisdiction, except a matter relating to any litigation. Each speaker should sign in on the public comment sheet available at the Board of Trustees meeting. Speakers should limit their comments to 3 minutes. The Board of Trustees may, if any members deem it necessary, limit both the number of speakers and the time allotted to each speaker upon motion and a second by any other member. Under the law, the Board of Trustees may only take action on items specifically listed on the agenda. Subject matter presented which is not part of the agenda will be referred to the appropriate department for review and subsequent action. Therefore, the Board of Trustees may not take formal action on any requests made during the public comment period, which are not on the agenda, but can refer such requests to school staff for review if appropriate. Also, this is a limited public forum, and so there is an avenue of relief for those who wish to speak about an individual. Please limit your comments and avoid speaking of the individual because we do have other forums for that. Thank you.
Mrs. Alderete, you will have 3 minutes, and Mrs. Guerra will hold the sign at the minute. Thank you. You may begin.
Good evening, members of the board, community, faculty, and staff. My name is Stacy Alderete. On the agenda tonight, you have an item that deals with student transportation. I would hope that you would do the right thing once and for all. If high school students received bus transportation last year, they should have it this year, period. The bus transportation fiasco was a knee-jerk reaction. Definitely poor planning. You gave our parents and students unwarranted anger and frustration. You did not give parents and students sufficient time to react to bus changes. It's like changing the rules in the middle of a game. You violated the TEA rules last year anyway, and who ultimately is responsible for that failure? Now the administration says it would cause a budget deficit of about $170,000 in order for the students to be bused. Really? You should be worried about the wrong student enrollment you budgeted, which will cost over $1.6 million. Who are we holding responsible for this huge mistake? Do you know what happens to CEOs in the private sector who lose this kind of money? They get fired. It's not rocket science. The charter schools did not cause the loss of our enrollment. You closed the schools, and that's the underlying reason, period. The charter schools were only there to pick up the pieces, so to speak. And now we are worried about adding to the deficit and are going to deny our students and the parents the bus transportation they need and deserve. I encourage you to do the right thing tonight. If you make changes to satisfy TEA transportation rules, make them for next school year, but begin to educate the parents and students on the changes now. Do it the right way this time. By the way, you have done the right thing by self-reporting yourself to TEA on violating the transportation rules last year? That might be a good idea instead of a citizen doing the job for you. Also, with the school closures, I would like to mention that we stated that the children knew that this was unity when we would put them together. And I'm hoping that we are encouraging that with staff as well, because the kids are being referred to as Kaizen kids and Acton kids. And it's causing them to withdraw. So I hope that's looked into as well. Thank you and have a good night.
Virginia Loetta. No. Angelita Olvera.
Good evening, members of the board, Madam President, my name is Angelita Olvera, Superintendent. I am here tonight to report on two rumors that are making the rounds in the school district. First rumor is that one of the elementary schools in the Valley High area will be closed. The teachers and employees and parents are concerned. That's not going to happen because of political reasons. Board members who represent that area are not going to get their toes stepped by the administration. If a teachers organization is putting together out that rumor, shame on them. It is a scare tactic. The master planners of this scare tactic went to the community to support the bond and TRE. Support that bond and TRE or we will close your schools. The school district is in financial trouble. We are in financial trouble because no one is minding the store. Now, they want us, the taxpayers, to bail them out. That's not going to happen without a fight. Remember, an educated voter will always see through the smoke and mirrors. We will make sure that happens. The second rumor is that one of the board members who owns a business was seen at a school district-sponsored event trying to push for their business. Someone from the school district gave that board member permission to set up their table among the other vendors. Isn't that a conflict of interest? It certainly does not pass the smell test. The optics send the wrong message. That has to stop. Thank you.
Ms. Ospagin, members of the board, Dr. Zavedra, Dr. Castleberry, members of the audience, staff, administrative staff. My name is Tom Cummins, and I'm representing South San AFT. First, there is a new report on state spending on education by Michael Marder, a professor at the University of Texas, and Chandra Villanueva, an analyst at the Center for Public Policy and Politics. The report shows there is a drop in state spending on K-12 public education of $3.2 billion from 2008 to today. The main conclusion of that report is that funding cuts become achievement gaps as students advance through the grades with fewer programs and resources. Each year that those cuts are sustained, the larger the achievement gap. The report is available at forabettertexas.org, and we recommend that people read it. It's also provided in the handout. Second, we're also providing you with a copy of an article comparing charter schools with traditional schools. The article is written by former State Board of Education member Thomas Ratcliffe, a Republican from Mount Pleasant. The article is based on the facts, not the hype that the charter school supporters point out. A part of his conclusions is that the state is subsidizing charters with more and more dollars, just for the sake of competition, even though those charters are lower performing. At the same time, they are decreasing state aid to public school districts. Can the starving of the public schools be stopped? Only if Texas voters become aware of what is happening and demand a change. Third, we are again urging you to begin planning for a tax reauthorization election, or TRE. Had the South San School Board acted 10 years ago, it would have meant an extra estimated $50 million to $60 million over that 10-year period for the students. The district would have retained more experienced teachers and support staff. The students would have had more programs. There would have been more equipment and supplies available. Not acting at this point would be irresponsible. So please begin planning for a TRE. Thank you for your attention.
So that concludes the citizens to be heard. So now we're going to go into the presentation and report of the Leader in Me, Dr. Saavedra.
Thank you, Mrs. Green. Let me call our students from Palo Alto. Palo Alto.
Good evening, members of the board, and Dr. Saavedra. My name is Israel Lopez, and I'm here representing Palo Alto Elementary, our wonderful school. And so I want to begin by saying that we are the home of the mighty Rams. Okay? Not only are we have the opportunity this year to educate and work with wonderful students, we have the opportunity to make great leaders. The Leader in Me is a whole school transformation process that empowers students with leadership and life skills to thrive in the 21st century. The process starts with these powerful paradigms. Everyone can be a leader. Change starts with me. Everyone has genius. Educators empower students to lead their own learning. And finally, develop the whole person. Every child has a unique strengths and talents that they can use to lead. These paradigms allow the staff and community to encourage the development of the whole child. They begin with learning Dr. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Successful People. But in our case, 7 Habits of Happy Kids. So let me...
Hey, Coach, let us take care of this. Take it away, guys.
Be proactive. Always are to lead. I am a responsible person that choose my actions, attitudes, and moves. Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. Have a plan. And plan ahead and set goals.
I look for ways to be a good citizen.
Habit 3.
Put first things first and play. I spend my time on things that I know is important. This means I say no to things I know I should not do.
Habit 4. Think win-win. I win, you win, we win.
I balance courage for getting what I want with consideration for what others want. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Listen to what I'm taught. I listen to others without judgment. I listen to others people's ideas and opinions. Habit 6. Synergize. Together is better. I work well in groups. I am humble. I value other people's strengths and learn from them. Habit 7. Sharpen salt. Let it feel best.
I take care of my body by eating right, exercising, and getting sleep.
I learn lots of ways and places, not just at school.
These are the 7 habits.
Board, I'm very pleased to announce that this is made possible through a grant that was written by myself and some of the teachers that are here and part of the Lighthouse Committee. We were awarded $39,000 to start the implementation and then have the opportunity for another additional $39,000, barring that we meet all our expectations and our marks. So with that being said, the Leader in Me framework has 3 major components. So one being leadership principles, teaching our students leadership principles, also creating a leadership culture on campus, and last but not least, also emphasizing academic excellence and achievement. So to talk further about that, I'm going to have my rest of my team.
Hello, I'm Shanna Waller, and I'm the assistant principal at Palo Alto Elementary School. I lead, I facilitate the leadership component. This component consists of the professional learning action team, the student learning action team, and the family learning action team. Our purpose is to not only train our teachers, but our students and our family about the Leader in Me program.
Good evening, I am Cassandra Garcia, and I actually lead the Professional Learning Action Team. In this team, we are responsible for developing staff members through ongoing staff learning around the 7 habits and highly effective practices, while the new staff members engage in training and mentoring. Hi, I'm Rebecca Tulin, and I'm in charge of student learning and action teams. My responsibility is seeing that the 7 habits and the leadership principles are effectively taught to all students through direct lessons, integrating approaches, and staff modeling. This allows students to think critically and to apply the leadership principles. They are.
Good evening, my name is Helena Cervantes, and I lead the Family Learning Action Team. And we focus on families and the school and partnering them and learning about the 7 habits and the leadership principles through effective communication and mutual respect. The school provides resources and training and encourages students to teach to learn with their families. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ana Flores, and I'm the school counselor at Palo Alto Elementary. I'm actually the facilitator for the culture. And for culture, we want students to not only feel proud when they walk into Palo Alto, but as they're talking about Palo Alto, we want them to take pride. So my team is going to share a little bit about what we do.
Good evening, my name is Angelica Aguilar, and I lead the Leadership Environment Action Team. Students and staff members are able to see the leadership in the physical environment, hear leadership through the common language of the 7 habits, and feel leadership through a culture of caring, relationships, and affirmation.
Hello, I'm Linda Gonzalez, and I lead the Shared Leadership Action Team. Leadership is shared with students through a variety of leadership roles, and student voice leads to innovation in the school. Lighthouse teams are active and provide leadership for the school.
Good evening, my name is Salino Diaz. I'm part of the Leadership Events Action Team. School-wide classroom and family and community leadership events provide authentic environments to celebrate leadership, build culture, and allow students to practice leadership skills as we all just witnessed here today.
Good evening, my name is Andrea Sanchez, and I'm the instructional coach at Palo Alto Elementary. I have the honor of facilitating the academic team. Our team not only has students set goals, but teacher goals as well, which lead to school goals. We chart them, we track them, we make sure that we are accomplishing the things that we set at our school. My team is also in charge of empowering education, which, as we know from our call to action, is very important to South San. So my team is going to speak a little bit more about each one of their roles.
Hello, my name is Patricia Rocha, and I lead the school-wide goal achievement action team. The school utilizes the 4DX process to identify and track progress on scoreboards toward aligned wildly important goals, or we call them WIGs, for the school, for each classroom, and then for staff.
Good evening, I'm Patricia Gomez, and I'm part of the Student-Led Achievement Action Team. Students lead their own learning with skills and assess their needs, set appropriate goals, and carry out action plans. Students are empowered through the use of leadership notebooks, student-led conferences to reflect on progress toward their goals.
Good evening. My name is Uri Olivares, and I lead the Empowering Instruction Action Team. Teachers use instructional methods that empower students to lead their own learning. Building trusting relationships, engaging student-led learning, and utilizing collaborative planning and reflection combine to create environments for highly engaged learning. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, great things are happening at Palo Alto Elementary. These great things are evident in all our students, from 5th grade all the way down to our pre-K students. We are beginning to get leadership roles for each and every student, and that is our goal. Eventually, if I don't know if they mentioned this, but this is a 5-year process. We're hoping that by the end of the 5 years, we have leaders throughout the school, and we will hand over the school over to the students, and they will be running the school because they'll be great leaders by then. The leader in me serves as an operating system for the school, improving relationships, transforming culture, and essentially motivating staff and students to achieve both personal and academic success. So ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you, and with that, we want to say thank you and good night.
Thank you very much.
We're now going to go into closed session. The board will return to open session and take appropriate action, if any, on items discussed in closed session. No action will be taken in closed session. Further, board members are reminded that all items discussed in closed session must remain confidential so as to avoid liability to the district. The board will consider and discuss the following items. Closed meeting pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, and 551.0821. Discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. And the time is 6:24. Thank you.
Trouble in the house.
Something. I don't want to go through there. I love this. It's more stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I live stream you all the time, and I see you over here.
Say it.
Yes, sir.
She just got her master's in higher ed. She's doing really well. She's having her house built.
Oh, yeah? Where?
Right here on Highway 60. I found her. You know what a bolero is? And then a small apartment with Bendiciones. Yeah.
So she's going to be close to you.
Oh, yeah. I think you better not be late. I get to sleep there one night.
related to Mike. Not related.
Looking at Mike's over I think it was. I think it was. That's like stabbing Well, if I remodel,
No, that's good. I'm good. I'm not
I need my heels to be free up.
See, I like that. Busy
Yeah, I saw it just a couple, I was right
I looked over here and said, oh my gosh, is that so good? How are you? Hi, Nicole Smith. Nice to meet you, Amy. Nice to meet you. We were at 20. What did you do at 20? I was nice. Just last year. Wasn't it? Does it? What do you do now? I'm a director of teaching and learning. Second year. Wonderful. You're like inspired. I'm open. I love that. As an English student, and I like that. I appreciate it. Would you be a blessing? Yeah, so we just started out. Oh, are you kidding? Wow.
So it makes reading recovery look inexpensive. Okay, got it. And you can read kidneys. So there we go. Yes, it's all. And so I took a year off. So
Yeah. Gotta have something new, and it was like, and she said, I just said your name the other day, and she walked it off. She told me, this is what she told me about it. She told her, hey, I'm here, I want to say hi. I never met her. She goes, so I knew exactly. Now it's
Then you improve. Then you improve.
That's awesome. That's no other explanation? No, I mean, she said it. I knew what she
Yeah, very.
always going to be always.
Or even out of the company. Somebody.
They are. We try regularly. We have somewhere. How fun.
Try that on vacation.
I guess for me, I live.
Samantha? Okay. Are you on the ethics committee?
Yes.
Get something?
We're still working on it.
time is 6:54. We're back now in open session, and we'll begin with the superintendent's remarks. Dr. Saletta.
Thank you, Mr. Green, members of the board. I'd like to share with the board that October is the Principals Recognition Month, and we'd like to take the opportunity to thank our principals for not only all their hard work, but quite frankly, all their successes in working with their staffs and making South San a school district that we can all be proud of. So congratulations to our principals. Also in October, last week actually, was Human Resource Appreciation Week. So we'd like to say thank you to Monica Lopez, our director, as well as her staff for the work that they do in ensuring that our district is properly staffed and they take care of all the HR functions that they take care of. And I especially want to congratulate our student leaders from Palo Alto. You were here a few minutes ago. You had the opportunity to see our elementary student leaders from Palo Alto really demonstrate the various things that they've been learning in leadership in this new grant program that they were successful in obtaining. And I thank the teachers and our principals and everyone at Palo Alto for making that program so successful as they kick it off. And my final remark is in reference to trying to correct some misinformation that was presented earlier. One of our speakers stated that the district was under financial problems. That's the furthest thing from the truth. I just want to reassure our community that the district does not have any financial problems at this time. As a matter of fact, August 31st, when we closed our fiscal year, there was a surplus at the end of that budget. And although we do project a shortfall this year in reference to a lower enrollment, Mr. Zamora and I have no doubt that we will be able to make this up before the end of the fiscal year. That concludes my remarks.
Now we are under recognitions. October Superstar Employee of the Month, Dr. Saletta.
Yes, I'm going to call him Ms. Durant as we're prepared to recognize one of our superstar employees.
Good evening again. We'd like to recognize our South San Superstar Employee of the Month, as you mentioned. This employee was nominated by his principal because she says he's punctual, has great attendance, and is always working hard to keep his campus beautiful. He's new to our district after spending 40 years in a previous occupation before that business closed. He says he enjoys working at the school that his children attended. He says when he looks at the children, he remembers his children, and he tries to do the very best because of that. Now, one of those children did grow up and become a teacher in our district, and she is joining him here tonight. So doing good work for South San runs in their family. We'd like to congratulate Jose Cruz Barrientos, our October Superstar Employee of the Month.
Right here. You're the star. Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Okay, presentation and reports. Number 2, repurpose committee reports. Dr. Saletta.
Mr. Seguin, members of the board had requested an update from our 2 repurposed committees, and I know we have representatives from most groups here today. We have Mr. Richard Bettis representing the Case and Repurpose Committee, and since he's up, he will provide you an update at this point.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board. My name is Richard Bettis. I'm the president of the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, and I'm a proud graduate of South San High School. 3 children that have also graduated from South San High School, and my wife is an employee of South San, the school district. And I'm proud to be the chair of the Case and Repurposing Committee. I'm joined this afternoon by some very, very hardworking individuals that have joined me on a monthly basis to look at repurposing of the facility, and I'd like to ask them to stand and be recognized. Colleagues, please stand and be recognized. Thank you. So let me tell you, these folks are dedicated. We have a meeting, they're there, they're vocal, they have ideas, and we've been meeting for several months, and we've come up with some good start of our work, and I'd like to share that with you today. So the first thing that we realized was that it is a large facility, very, very large facility. And so as a result of it being so large, we thought that using it for multi-purpose was probably the smartest thing for us to do. As opposed to dedicate it to one thing, but maybe do several things to be able to utilize the facility to the maximum extent that it can be utilized. So that's number one. So number two, the facility has a relatively new and functional lab space. And so we thought that that might be very useful, given that we are on a trajectory to open up the Academy of Health Sciences. We thought that maybe utilizing that lab space to complement the work of the Academy once it's up and running made a lot of sense. In addition to maybe even looking at other programs like an LVN or some other medical uses that would complement the use of the labs. Number three, we want to focus and continue to focus on activities and uses that will get more of our kids to go to college and or get them career ready. So we thought about using the facility for some kinds of activities like that. So one of the things we talked about was a potential cafe college. You know, there is a very substantial facility that's run by the San Antonio Education Partnership in conjunction with the city downtown. We thought about a facility on the south side that could not only serve our kids, but maybe other school districts that touch us, and even maybe outside of Bexar County. At the end of the day, they're all our kids, and they look like us, and they need opportunities to learn and to grow and to go to school. So that was one of the ideas that we thought. But in addition to a cafe college type utilization, maybe GED, citizenships classes, ESL classes, all those things we think will enhance the opportunities for those that are going to school now, or maybe those that are not in school anymore but want to come back, and then even those that are not in school at all but could use citizenship classes, for example, or ESL. So again, just because the facility is so large, we think there's plenty of room for these kinds of activities. And finally, we thought about using the facility for other kinds of uses, either public or private, that were complementary with the use of a school. And that could also hopefully generate revenue for the district that then we could turn around and use to pay for these kinds of new programs that we're asking you all to consider. We don't really know what that might be, but we think that given the size of the facility, ample parking, I mean, the bones are really, really good. I'm certain it'll take some kind of upgrades to the facility, but at the end of the day, it's a functioning facility that's got a lot of usable space, and we believe that its days are still, there are a lot of good days ahead of it. And so that is our recommendations, and we're happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Board members, are there any comments, concerns, or questions? Mr. Ybarra?
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you taking the lead. I think that the vision that we had when we wanted to kind of appoint committees to repurpose these campuses was to do just that, to research, to explore the ideas, and I think y'all are on the way to doing that. So I really appreciate everybody that's involved in that Kaizen committee and all the hard work y'all are putting in. So the lab space used for the Health Science Academy, are you thinking, is that one wing? Do we know the specific on that?
We have a specific wing that was built for science labs, specifically middle school course. So there would be a need to upgrade those labs to the high school level and for a Health Science Academy. But the facility itself is relatively new, and actually probably the building in the facility that's probably the best condition right now.
Okay. On the Cafe College, to incorporate the GED, ESL, and citizenship, would that all be part of the Cafe College, or would this be something separate?
I think they would be separate. There'd be other not-for-profits that would come in and help run those kinds of things. We really don't know, but we do know that Catholic College rather is functioning, the Education Partnership runs it, and it's very successful, and so we think maybe bringing some of that to the south side makes a lot of sense.
I think it's an awesome idea. And being that we have Palo Alto College right around the corner, we have Texas A&M right there, so I think that's a great idea. And any idea on the last piece, the partnership with someone to try to bring in some revenue?
There's some dialogue that's happening, but we left it kind of open for you all to decide as an elected body to do your best thinking on what, or who could go in there and help generate some revenue.
So that recommendation is still in the works?
Well, that would be, I think, up to the staff to go out and find.
The Southside has had, frankly, good luck, in my opinion, in partnering with different public entities. With the Olivares building, initially A&M San Antonio, had it for so many years. Then more recently, in the last year or two, a partnership with the Sheriff's Department to utilize that building. And we're hopeful that we would find possibly another public entity that would want to partner with us. These partnerships are for the primary purpose of ensuring that we don't have empty buildings. Empty buildings in a school system are frankly not good for the district, not good for the community as well. So if we can find a public entity that can utilize a portion of that facility, along with some of the other suggestions made by the committee, as we try to upgrade our labs to meet the needs of our health science program at the high school level. You stated the proximity to Palo Alto College is a plus also. So yeah, I think there's opportunity to identify another public entity that might be able to utilize the facility.
Okay. Now, I would like to emphasize that we did want to have the focus on the repurpose to be educational. So the lab space and the Cafe College are definitely headed towards that direction. So I really appreciate, again, your hard work.
Mrs. Flores?
Yes, Mr. Perez, do you anticipate continuing, you and your committee continuing to meet? Or at this point, have you all made, at this point, this is your recommendation?
Well, I think we're pretty close to the end, unless there's something else. But I know my colleagues enjoy meeting, and it's a great dialogue. But if you wanted us to give you a recommendation, we're kind of at the end of the recommendation stage. We might be able to polish it up a little bit more, but I think we're pretty much there.
And I'm only asking this because we had said more or less a timeline by when the committees should report to us and give us the recommendation, and that would be February of 2018. So y'all are well ahead. I want to compliment you and your committee for your hard work and giving us your recommendations, which I do agree with Mr. Ibarra, that we want to make sure that it is educational. I can see one of them already being part of one of our goals for the district, where we want our students to be college and career ready. There's many, there's, when you say it's multi-purpose, it is, and when you say that the fourth one where there are other uses, there is, because it is a big campus. So thank you for your hard work, and you're well ahead of the game.
Thank you, thank you. Again, I want to applaud my colleagues. They really, they're dedicated, they're focused, they're from the district, they have a stake in this place just like you all do. So I appreciate that.
Mrs. Prowse?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Perez, for being here, and I know you have a very busy schedule as well. But I want to thank your committee members, because I know they all have families, and that takes a lot of time, dedication. Thank you so much. I know you said they met several times. How many times did the committee meet?
At least once a month, since the committee was founded. So when did we start meeting? May? April?
In May?
Yeah. So yeah, we've gotten after it.
That's good. And at your, I know sometimes you may have 10 committee members, but they can't all go at one time. How many, what's the average number of committee members that have been present? Unless you tell me they've all been there, then I'm saying, good for you.
Yeah, no, actually, I have missed them myself, so yeah, certainly we haven't all been there. But I would say a majority have always been there. But yeah, I don't think we have perfect attendance, certainly I don't. Not like our star employee.
Thank you, Mr. Pettis.
I'd like to also commend y'all for committing yourselves to this committee. I know that's not an easy task with the schedules that we all keep and families, and so I really, really do thank you for the time it took to come up with these recommendations. And you know, it wasn't easy. I mean, you could have chosen from anything with, I was aware of some of the questions you did ask, and I'm sure you weren't surprised by the responses that were given. And so with that, you had to think a little hard and you know, come up with some really good ideas. And so, I mean, these are really good. The Cafe College on the south side, I think, would be really beneficial. You know, considering that we do have, you know, community college and university. And so that would be, you know, a plus. The lab space as well, you know, we're wanting to implement some programs that will get our kids, you know, career ready and you know, utilizing that space, you know, for that. I mean, y'all really thought about a lot of things. So I'm really glad that, you know, these recommendations are before the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Are there any? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll call Ms. Tiffany Mesa. She's the chair for the Athens Repurpose Committee. Mesa.
Hello, I'm Tiffany Mesa, and our committee unfortunately has had a little bit of trouble with the members. We've, our administrators, they left the district, so we no longer have somebody in that role. So we're working with it, and we're doing good. And we are still trying to figure out what's best for our community and our school. So what we would like to request is an inspection of the building. And we just want to know what we're working with. Just like when you get a home, you get an inspection, you want to know what you're working with. So we'd like an inspection of the building just to know what's going on there. And we'd like it from an outside source from the district. So somebody that's not, has nothing to do with the district at all, is what we're requesting. And that way we know and we can make the best decision possible for that school.
Board members, do you have any comments, concerns, or questions? Mr. Ibarra?
Hi there. How you doing? I know we had talked once before, and I know you're really committed to the Athens community, so I applaud you taking the lead, and thank you for your hard work. Do you have any idea for anything for Athens right now?
Yes, we have a few ideas, nothing set. We do want to keep it educational based, and we do want to keep we're keeping our community involved as much as possible. We've been attending the neighborhood association meetings and just really trying to get input from all the community members around so we can see what they want as well.
So right now you can't report on any progress?
Right now, our progress is still limited because we want to know what's going on with the building itself before we make any major decisions about that. So we want to know how the building is itself because we are all aware that it's a very old building. So we want to know if the building itself, do we have mold, do we have asbestos, do we have these different things that could limit our opportunities?
Okay. And so do we have a time frame? I know with the end date is in February, but do we have a time frame when they can report again and give us some progress?
As often as y'all want.
So do you think you can have, or?
We can come again anytime, it's next month or anytime. Well, we hear rumors about the building. We hear there's plumbing issues. We hear there's air conditioning, but we don't know ourselves what's going on with the building. So that's why we're requesting the inspector. So if we can get that and we can know exactly what's going on, so we can make the best decision possible for that building, and we'll report back next month or anytime I'm happy to come.
Well, and so I don't know that necessarily that this inspection should hinder a recommendation.
Right.
I think a recommendation can be brought forward. We're gonna have to address how we accommodate that recommendation at some point. And if that means that we have to, you know, do mold remediation, asbestos remediation, then at that time, that's what's gonna have to be done. But I don't think that should hinder a recommendation by your committee. So I would say that if we could get a report in a month.
Sure, I mean.
That's fine.
Yeah. Let me just comment, if I may, on the request for an inspection. You know, as we probably know, an inspection could be something relatively minor or something very, very detailed. And I'm not exactly understanding at what level of inspection the request is, but I can tell you that the school operated as a school through May of this past few months ago. We addressed some issues during the school year, air quality tested, those type of things that occurred in that school over the last couple of years.
Yeah, those reports would be helpful, just so I can show my committee members as well.
Yeah, and we have some of that information, but the building's in relatively good shape. You know, maybe an old building, but it's in relatively good shape. Had the school not been consolidated, it would have operated as a school this year. You know, but I would agree with Mr. Ibarra that if, you know, once the recommendations come in and the district makes them, at the board level, makes some decisions to what we're going to do with that building, clearly some architect, engineers, and so forth would have to make some decisions as to what remediation, if any, might be required before we could move forward.
And that's why we would like to be ahead of the game, so we can make the best decision possible.
Mrs. Waters?
Yes, Ms. Mesa, I too want to thank you for stepping up and sharing this committee. I know it's not easy, especially in trying to gather people to meet. But my question is, initially when you first met as a committee, how many members were there?
When we first met, there were several members. I'm not exactly sure how many, but currently we have about 4 active members that are coming on a regular basis. Or if not coming, then they're keeping up with things. But we are struggling a little bit. I've talked to some people from Athens because I would like to have a teacher or somebody as well from Athens to be a part of it because that was their school. So I'm trying to get somebody to fill that role. But we did get another a guidance counselor, Ms. Farrell, from a Korea, and so she's in there. So she's helping us and we, you know, as far as the community members, we have 4 active community members.
Well, that's a good start. That's great. And I too agree with what Mr. Ibarra is saying, that the request that you have for the inspection should not hinder the committee's recommendation to move forward. Because as Dr. Saveda said, then that would be up to the professionals, the architects, and the engineers to make the decisions, you know, as to what y'all's recommendations may be, whether it's going to warrant that type of inspection. And already he says that there have been some air quality ones, so that's, I'm sure he'll make those available for the committee.
Thank you.
Mrs. Clark?
Thank you, Ms. Musson. I appreciate it. I know you two have a lot on your plate because you're a parent, you have kids in the district. But thank you for serving on that committee. I know it hasn't been easy with the loss of a lot of the teachers and administrators that left the district. I only have the 2 same questions that I asked Mr. Perez. Is since the formation in May, how many meetings has the committee had?
I believe it's 4.
4, okay. And at those 4 meetings, you've had at least a quorum?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, one was only me. Yes, one was only me. We had one here, and it was only me. That is only one meeting. Yeah.
So the others you had?
Yes, the others.
Okay. That's all I have for you, Ms. Mesa. Thank you. I do have a question for Dr. Saveda. And I think, Elda, somebody said that the deadline was February 2018. Is that correct?
That's our goal, is to have it
February.
It was identified on the motion.
Okay, but obviously Kaysen's ahead of the game, so we just have to get Athens committee solidified so we can bring that to the board. My question is, as we all know, when we closed the 2 schools, we had a lot of community meetings for the parents. The communities evolved, they went out to different schools and met, and it was a very open process. So after the February 2018, or whenever the final recommendations come, would it be appropriate, or wouldn't it be appropriate to have committee meetings as well, or community meetings, to inform the community that it's going to impact of what the repurpose committee, what their decisions have been, or what their recommendations been, to inform the community, to be transparent and open, because those are their facilities, they are taxpayers, and they own those facilities. So I think it's important that we keep them abreast of what's going on, what decisions are being made. That was just my recommendation.
I too want to thank you for chairing this committee. I know it's not easy, especially when those appointed were moved to a different district. But I do want to thank you that you continue to chair it, and hopefully next month we can narrow down some ideas so that we can kind of see more or less what your way of thinking is. That would be kind of good. And to second what Mr. Ivada and Mrs. Flores said on the inspection, whatever your recommendation is, I'm sure that we would do it at that point so that, everyone would not be in harm's way in whatever, recommendation is given. And so I heard from you that you have been going out to the neighborhood associations. Which ones have you been to?
I've been to Mr. Lopez, and it's the Quintana community, and I've also been to the South San Neighborhood Association.
And so when you go out to those associations, has it been, to discuss, to get some ideas, or is it just a reporting like it is here?
It's been both. We've reported because they've asked, and we've discussed different things with them to see what they want to do. We've asked their opinions, and a lot of them they wish they had their school back. But we are trying to stay open-minded and just listen to everybody and see what everybody has to say. That way we can make the best decision for our community.
Okay, and how many of those meetings have been attended? How often do they meet?
They meet once a month.
And so you've been
Yes.
to both of them once a month? Do they meet on the same day or different days?
No, different days.
Okay, and roughly how many people attend these association meetings?
There's quite a few people there. I'm not sure.
We had a big group last night, and they were asking what's being done.
And I was not able to attend last night because we had our own meeting last night.
All right. Well, great. It looks like you're being transparent and getting that community aware of getting some ideas from them. So that's really good. Are there any other comments or concerns? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is to report on constraint 1, progress measures 1.2, absence rate. Dr. Saavedra?
So again, members of the board, this is a report that was presented last week, and we're coming back on the agenda for the purpose of correcting the information that was presented last week, and it pertains to teacher attendance. Last week, what was reported, the data did not reflect good teacher attendance, basically. Actually, it reflected very poor teacher attendance. So my intent in bringing it back is to publicly correct the administration. The administration used formulas that were inappropriate, and therefore the information that was presented by the administration last week was not correct. So before I turn it over to Ms. Lopez to walk you through the 3 or 4 slides that we have, I'll extend an apology to all our teachers for the misinformation that was provided by the administration. Ms. Lopez?
So in front of you, the first slide is the teacher absence for week 1. So you'll see from week 1 and on top of it, it'll take the percentage of week 1 through week 6. On the next slide is the teacher's attendance for week 1 through 6. And so it shows you the percentage on the top, so 98.7 starting in week 1 and it goes down to week 6 at 92.9. The next slide is the teacher absences by day of the week. So Monday is 135 and it goes Tuesday 107, Wednesday 102, Thursday 133, and then on Friday 207. And then the last slide is teachers' attendance next to the student attendance for the first 6 weeks. So you'll see that the first 4 weeks, the teachers are in the light blue and the students are in the dark blue. So for the first 4 weeks, the teachers are ahead of the students, and then week 5 and 6 is when they drop.
Let me add that the average of these 6 weeks is 95.76%. And the goal, if you might recall, for the year that we're shooting for is not any lower than 94%. So the teachers are well ahead of that goal, as are the students. Any questions for Ms. Lovelace?
Board members, are there any comments, concerns?
This is a much better data, but it still shows some patterns that I would like to keep looking at to see throughout the year. So if this report could come back on a regular basis so that we could see a student and teacher comparisons like this, would be very helpful.
Would quarterly be appropriate, or how
I
often
would
would
say
you
every
like?
6 weeks if possible. 6 weeks base, is that possible?
Yeah, it is, except we want to do it regular meetings, because we meet monthly. We can do it monthly, we can do it every other month.
Every other month is probably 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks, okay. Okay, sure.
I'm only asking because it's, this is the first 6 weeks. And yes, the numbers are high, but as the year progresses, then it shows something else, something different. And I just want to see, you know, are we, what are the things that we can do to maybe help, or maybe, as we were talking the last time, when we were alarmed, maybe we do need to start looking at policies or something like that. So it would just, you know, the data just would tell us more over a long period of time.
Okay.
Are there any other, Mr. Ibarra?
So I just have a question towards the administration. What measure did we use that gave us so skewed data that this one's so different?
I can't really explain it to you because it was so far off. I just can't explain it. I can tell you that the failure on the part of the administration is that we didn't catch it until after the fact. We caught it, as you know, immediately after the meeting, as I notified the board, but that was at least a few hours too late. But we were totally way off. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Mrs. Brown?
First, I'd like to, if I could, on Ms. Flores' request for information, could we also get the breakdown by campus to see if maybe there's a trend at a certain campus that needs to be addressed? I'd like to see that by campus as well, to see where we're at. And and then on Mr. Ibarra's question, so what was, I guess, I'm curious, there was a big disparity from the last report, the first report, and this report. So the calculation, I don't understand, what calculation do you use to come up with this?
The best way that I can describe it to you is that the correct formula is to identify the average on a weekly basis versus the whole 6 weeks basis. And the math is done on the whole 6 weeks basis. And it totally skewed the numbers completely, you know. And like I said, you know, I mean, this should have been caught much earlier than certainly part to present it to the board, but it wasn't caught until after the fact.
That's all I have.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I have some questions. I don't know if I have some, but I know I have one. So, well, a comment first. First, I'd like to retract my comments on that, that I was disappointed because I'm not elated or, thrilled. There is, 7%. But, so I want to retract my comments of being disappointed. And hopefully this is a learning lesson for administration to check the reports before bringing them to a public meeting.
Sure.
On another note, so we're being recorded, and we are going to be monitoring this, as Ms. Flores wants, every 6 weeks or nearest to the board meeting. I'd like to know what measures are going to be taken so that we don't fall below the 94% that we were wanting. And so maybe in the next meeting, because that's on the administration side, is to determine what incentives or what restrictions, if any, so that attendance doesn't go below the 94%. And so I'd like to be reported on that as far as what is y'all's thinking and what's being implemented.
So recommendations perhaps?
Right.
Yes. Okay. Anyone else?
Just to add to what you just said, and maybe kind of see, because I know that at the last meeting, because it was so alarming, we kind of said that we had looked into what other districts were doing. So maybe we take, at least the districts around us and see what kind of policy they have in place for teacher absences. And maybe we can, report on that.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Next one, we are on the workshop of possible action, Board of Trustees self-evaluation. Dr. Saavedra?
This is the self-evaluation of the board meeting.
Okay.
I believe you have facilitator.
Yes.
Mr.
Vada and Mrs. Smith.
Good evening.
Hi. Good evening.
Hi, we're very glad to be here. We are with the Service Center, Education Service Center 20. Very excited that you have asked us to come and facilitate as you move through the self-evaluation of Lone Star Governance. I am Nicole Smith, a component director at the center, and
Good evening, I'm Ed Vada, Field Service Agent at Region 20.
And so I know that you were sent the sheets ahead of time so you could look ahead and to look at the framework and look at how we're going to evaluate. And before we jump into that, I would like a show of hands. How many of you have gone through the Lone Star Governance 2-day training? Okay, good. And how many of those with your hands down are planning to go to the Lone Star Governance training? Possibly?
Go again?
Yes.
Okay, go again would be great, yes.
Ms. Flores has already signed up for
Yes,
January.
wonderful. Good. All right, Lone Star Governance, it's a big project. It's not something you decide to. So I was able to present with AJ this past year and a certified trainer, and really appreciated what Lone Star Governance is bringing not only to school board but to the whole state of Texas, because I really do believe it will make a difference. So I want to commend you, not only just for going, but for continuing and for knowing that it's important enough to go through all of the exercise you do in between board meetings and on the agendas and the time you take, and you're really doing great work for students. And so as we move through this, please know that we see this as a reflection. Like, let's look back and see what we did. Let's celebrate the successes. And also that second side, a growth measure. What else can we do? Because while it is about getting points is just data. Points are just data that show us where we are measured to where we were. But it really is about looking at these columns and saying, what can we do inside of this column to move us forward, to move our students forward? Because we know it is about student outcomes. So before we begin Lone Star Governance framework, and as we look through it, we do need to all remember that student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change, right? And who is the one adult that we can help change or we can control their behavior? I, myself. Very good. So it really is about setting aside our egos and bringing on our humility and saying, you know what, we work for the good of students. It's not about what I want. It really is about what students need. And I think we'll work through this, and depending on how much work you're able to do ahead of time to look and see, I think we'll get through this. And I know, from Ed and I looked through your past agendas, and we've kind of got some preliminary numbers. Very pleased, very, very pleased with the growth that we have seen. So we'll go ahead and start. And if you'll go ahead and turn, does everyone have a copy or need a copy? Anybody need a copy? We need to bring some extras. Everybody's good? All right. Then we'll turn to page 40 and we'll look at Vision 1. Just a reminder, in order to get credit for the column, you need to be able to fill up the whole column, give yourself checks for everything in the column, then you'll spill over to the other column. And if you give yourself credit for everything in that column, you'll spill over to the next column. And so we'll work through it that way. And so what we thought we would do is we would open it up. So if we look at the Texas Framework for Vision, Vision 1, the board works collaboratively with the superintendent to develop the vision and student outcome goals. So in looking at that, I'm opening up, if you are looking at the columns there, does anyone have a recommendation where you feel that your district, where you as a board are right now?
I think we're at 15.
Say 12?
Okay, we have a 12 and we have a 15.
I said 12.
A 12?
I say 12 as well.
Okay, good.
I said 11.
We should be auctioning something off. That's what I feel like right there. And so, and I appreciate you sharing your numbers. I really do. Thank you. One thing to keep in mind as we are looking at what has been done, there needs to be evidence of it. And so as we're looking across each column, there needs to be evidence that it has occurred. So why don't we just jump in right here? We'll go ahead and start the first column there, that there are inputs, outputs, and outcomes. We have seen the evidence of that. Would everyone agree to that? There is evidence of inputs, outputs, and outcomes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's move on then. Preparing to focus. The board has a board-adopted vision statement. The board has a board-adopted goals. Board owned the vision development process while working collaboratively with the superintendent. Board owned the goals development process while working collaboratively with the superintendent. And board has adopted no fewer than 1 and no more than 5 goals. 3 is the recommended number. Anything in that list that we do not have evidence of, in your opinion? So we feel good about that column. So let's look at the third column for 4 points.
So real quick, the only thing I have on that,
Please.
and this is the only reason that it gave us an 11 and not a 12. And it's not because we don't have a board-adopted vision. We did adopt one. I feel like the vision that we have right now, the vision statement, is not one reflective of our community. So I feel like we have to revisit that and adjust that vision statement as a board. Because I think what we did was we just adopted the one that the district has. And I don't feel like that's a representation of the community.
So, and I appreciate you saying that, and so that may be something in the future that as a board, you discuss that as a group to decide collectively you would like to do. And as far as today's framework, we can say that you have a vision, and like visions and goals and opportunities and choices that we make, there's always opportunities to grow and to change. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Nicole, one of the things I think to echo that is you look at the column under 15, that's one of the recommendations we're going to make to you is the involvement of the community. That's the next step for the growth and development. So you're on track there.
Yes.
And it's going to come up actually with several others as well.
Great, thank you. All right, so if we look in that middle column there, do we have evidence of all 3 of those pieces? If so, what evidence do you have?
We have that.
You're talking about the baseline target population?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is something you
set
can,
goals.
yes.
We set our goals.
And the deadline, you have 3 goals. Yes, we've seen those. And the years for the goals, they are within 5. I would agree, yes. And the board has adopted an annual target for each goal in addition to, yes. Would agree. So that's going to get us at least 4 points. Now as we move into the column March 12, if we look at that, there are 3 big chunks there. So if we look at that, let's look and see. Did we do it? Did we want to do it? Is there evidence that we did do it, or is it something we need to do? So as you start looking at that, would we say that that the goals are student outcome goals?
Yes.
Yes. And all the board members and superintendent agree that student outcome goals are SMART, as in specific, measurable. Yes? Okay. And then the board relied on a root cause analysis comprehension student needs assessment and similar research or tool to inform identification of prioritization and potential student outcome goals. When you were looking at student outcome goals, did you use needs assessment? Did you use other forms of data? What did you use? I think we know evidence-wise, you'll need to know for your own tool. What did you use?
She used that report that the state,
Texas academic.
Texas
A
Academic
taper?
Performance Report.
So use the TAPER report. Any other reports or any other data?
The staff provides us the results of the needs assessment tests as they're conducted, so we get to review that as well.
Graduation, the college ready indicators as well.
Good, so we have college ready indicator. So there is evidence that the board did look at that and relied on that to create the goals. Great, you give yourself credit for that. All right, now can we flow into the last column there? Can we flow into that? Did we involve students, families, teachers, and community when we created the vision, when we created the outcome goals, when we developed processes?
The answer is no.
As a board vision, I would say that we didn't. Administration did when we developed a strategic plan for the district, and they called in parents and teachers. So I think it's two different things. So I don't want to say that we haven't involved.
But, well, for the first part, we did on the vision, but it was done before we did the student outcome goals.
Yes.
So we see it as a process. We see we've done it over here, no, maybe not all here. We've done it on the campus, but not at the board level. And that's that piece of growth. So while we will celebrate the columns that have been filled up and the wonderful work you've done, we see growth opportunities. Right? We see growth opportunities. So in looking at the Vision 1, it looks like this board has been able to reach that 4th column and receive 12 points. Do we feel like that is correct?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. And if we look at where you were for your baseline, last quarter you had a 4. This quarter you have a 12. Congratulations. That is well done, really well done, well done.
So if we go to the next page, we look at Vision 2. And this one says the board has adopted goal progress measures aligned to each student outcome goal. So we use the same process. Who wants to start us off? Yes, okay, yes, great, thank you.
Yes, we did.
All right, so a number, where do you see yourselves?
I gave it 12.
I said 12 as well.
12.
12.
Okay, so it sounds pretty unanimous on 12. Let's do the same process looking at the columns. So you have goal progress measures, so the first one really doesn't count. Preparing to focus. So you're looking at that first one. You have goal progress measures for each, and we'd like to applaud you because you have them posted on your website.
Yes,
Okay.
great job.
So again, that's a step in involving the community and showing them the work. The second, the superintendent owned the goal progress development process, working collaboratively with you in that whole process. And I think the first workshop was in June, began putting all that together. And then the current status is we're adopted or able to be updated multiple times during the school year. And actually, in one of the previous items y'all were talking about, can we see this again? Is this something we need to take a look at? Should we look at some more dynamics around those? So there's evidence of that. In approaches, Where are we on that column? Do we see that?
Yeah, we've been long protest.
Okay. Now we're going to ask you to look at a logistic piece that's an easy fix. If you look at the last one, it says, the board has adopted no fewer than 1 and no more than 3 goal performance measures for each student outcome. Focus on no more than 3. There's one where you have 4. Yeah.
I
So
thought we had
when you look at,
Which one?
I think it's the one, got it, yeah. When you look at goal progress measure 1, and the progress measures, you have 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4.
That's with the college and career?
Yes.
Yeah, because in our goal it states, college,
There's
university,
4
military,
different-
right,
Right.
right. So it had
Right.
4 of those, so we thought we should have a progress measure
Sure.
on each of those.
Sure.
That was the
Totally
reason.
understandable. It's an easy fix because it's really kind of outlined in your goal statement. So again, it's just something, again, because you look at it over time. So however you wish to rate yourselves tonight. So here's some options, okay? Let's go.
You said it's back.
Almost. The good news is it's your decision, not ours. But we need to point those things out to you, okay? So
11 and a half.
yeah.
We're gonna get you that half at some point. We'll get you that half.
Yeah. So that's a consideration as you look at, what we're looking for is that tight alignment, and you're there. You're not changing your goal, and you're not changing your goal progress measures, it's a number thing in terms of what they're looking at.
So
And you can
basically,
choose-
having the 3 progress measures with an and, one of them with an and.
You could,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So next time we can move from a 4 to the
So,
12?
yes. When that's what he's asking, what do we think for it? I can't go to a 12 if we don't have all of 4.
It's a 4.
We can adjust that.
Okay.
But again, it's an easy
Let's
fix.
go to 12. I say we keep it at 12.
I agree.
I think you're gonna put him in charge next time, aren't you? Aren't you? All right. And you know what? Let's look. The first time you did it, your baseline was a 0. So, well done, well done. So success right there. I'm gonna applaud for that one too. Good job, good job. All right, let's do Vision 3. We'll flip the paper over to Vision 3. The board has adopted a vision for what student outcomes will be and has adopted constraints aligned with that vision. Okay, so everybody get in mind the vision for what student outcomes will be and constraints aligned with that vision. So we start looking across. Could I hear a number? Who would like to throw something out as you looked at it? How would you rate it? Rate yourself. 9?
I said 3.
A 3. We have a 3 and a 9.
3.
Okay, so why don't we just start at that 3, that column number 3. Let's look at that. And each constraint describes a single operational action or class of actions the superintendent may not use or allow. Do not allow hiring criteria, low performing, that's an example. So what evidence do we have that each constraint describes a single operation action or class of actions?
We have them, we have 3 constraints, correct?
We have 3 constraints and we already have a set measure on those 2.
And there are measures after them. That is correct. So there is evidence for that, correct? Good. Now let's move into 9. We filled up 3. Let's see if we can flow into that column with the 9. And, which is at the top, and all board members and the superintendent agree that the constraints will challenge the organization and will require adult behavior change.
Yes.
All board members agree to that? Superintendent? Then, separate from the constraints on the superintendent's authority, the board has adopted 3 to 5 self-constraints on its own behavior and self-evaluates against one of them each month.
No.
And evaluates against one of them each month. Yeah, because I do want to very much publicly say, we have seen that you do have your own self-constraints for a board. very well written, well defined, easy for a person on the outside to understand. And I think that next little part that evaluates against one of them each month.
Okay, question on that.
Please.
I know we have one self-constraint on the board. I don't know that we have 3 to 5. That's why I didn't mark it.
Okay.
So if you look at your policy AE that you adopted back in September, Linda, do you have it there?
I do.
There are 5, I think you.
I do. We
Let's
just
go
need-
right
okay.
ahead.
Okay. The board collectively, the board constraints for the board?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. The board collectively and trustees individually shall not perform or appear to perform any of the roles delegated to the superintendent. The board shall not allow the introduction of new information or materials related to agenda items once the agenda is posted. The board's discussion of any agenda item shall not exceed 14 minutes, with each trustee allowed 2 minutes to comment, and the board shall review and amend its operating procedures annually.
Okay, I didn't know you did such great work.
Yeah.
Good job.
And you put it in your policy.
And it is in our
So
policy.
we can't successfully check it because we haven't evaluated them once a month.
Right.
Good. And so the group will now determine where would you self-evaluate yourself?
3.
3. You're going to give yourself a 3 on that. And that is up from, you had a 0. So there's growth in that area too. Well done.
So that takes us to Vision 4. The board has adopted constraint progress measures aligned to each constraint. So as you review those columns, where do you see yourself?
I said 4.
4.
I say 4.
I said 1.
So a 1 and a 4, whether considered ones. Okay, so we'll skip the first column because obviously you have constraint progress measures. The second column says you've adopted those measures for each constraint, and you have. And was the superintendent involved in that process and owned part of that? Yes. The current statuses were adopted, are able to be updated multiple times during the year. Yes, in fact, we're having discussions on one of those this evening about the attendance. All right, so let's look at the approaches column. As you read that first one, describes a baseline, a target, and a deadline. Yes? Yeah. Here's the sticky point, the next two. The deadline for each constraint progress manager to reach target is no more than 5 years away. You're okay there. 1 to 3 year measure deadlines are recommended. Okay, so most of those are kind of, you're at 1. When you kind of look at it, there was one that had multiple year, you did 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20. So to the extent where you can look at multiple year, that would be helpful to you. Okay, now that's a recommendation. It's not, I'm not going to put that one in stone. When you look at the last one, the board has adopted an annual target for each constraint progress measure in addition to its deadline target. We didn't see that.
That's kind of the one that we've been back and forth with, kind of like, how much can we grow per year?
Sure.
And I know that we've discussed, well, we can have so much growth per year, but maybe we won't meet the growth, but we'll get to it in 5 years, we'll meet that. So I think we've struggled with that one.
Okay.
As a board.
Is this for the goals or
No,
this
this
for
is
the constraints?
constraints.
Oh, the
Yes.
constraints, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
on the
the
goals,
constraints do only
on the
nine.
goals,
Okay.
you're solid.
The constraints, like for constraint 1, it says the student, we only have for 2017-18. We didn't put a
Do-
5 year.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Well, then I agree, we're not there.
So then we're at 0.5.
Okay. Now, one of the things we also asked you to consider on the one where you said you should, your meetings, sorry.
I'm sorry, don't they need to give themselves 1?
No, because we
No.
don't
We need
have.
to fill up. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong column.
It's just
I was
trying real hard to
trying.
get you-
I was going to give you another 0.5.
Thank you. I'm gonna need that half a
I'm
point.
sorry.
We're gonna get you there, we'll get you there. On the constraint that says the board's discussion of any agenda items should not exceed a little more than 14 minutes, et cetera. Admirable goal. Maybe adding some language there that you're looking for a balance with discussion on student performance outcome goals. So maybe, because I know you're looking at your minutes and you're looking at percentages, that may be a place for you to increase your percentage for spending more time at your board meetings on the student outcome goals and your constraint measures than other items. Okay, not 100%, but the closer you can get to a 50-50 may help you, and that may be an easier way to begin to look at that. Does that make sense? Okay, so again, looking at that goal, you're there. The whole point was you're looking at numbers and the percentage to see what's the focus. The focus should be the student outcomes.
Okay. Great, we're moving right along. Now let's move to accountability. So accountability one should be on your next page. The board invests at least half of its time focusing on its vision and student outcome goals.
Hold on.
Yes.
Before we move on, thanking you applaud that we did increase.
Yes. See, and I'm the cheerleader and I messed that one up. So yes, 0.5 because you worked 0. Good job. All right, now let's see accountability. Let's see how we did. Accountability 1. So half of the time focusing on vision and student outcome goals. What numbers might I hear?
I said 0.
I said 0.
I said 0.
You said 1. We have a 0, a couple of zeros and a 1. Talk to me, those that say 0, what evidence do we not see?
The tracking.
Monitoring calendar.
The tracking use of time and the board authorized public meetings.
Yeah, it was that
Just
last
started
piece.
doing.
Okay, good. Well, let's talk just for a second about the monitoring calendar. We did see the monitoring calendar, and we did see that you do have things for each month. A couple of things we would like to suggest that you put on the monitoring calendar. Superintendent's evaluation, something to put on the monitoring calendar. This would be a good thing to put on the monitoring calendar every 3 months. If
It's
you're
on
doing your, no, did I miss that?
This is on there, the self-evaluation.
Is on the,
On the calendar.
great. Okay, good, good. What was the other, was there a third?
When you say calendar, which calendar are you talking about?
This one right
That
here.
one. Okay, so
Okay.
is there?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
superintendent's evaluation would be another thing we would recommend.
And it's board
So is
tracker.
it quarterly board progress tracker?
Great,
Perfect.
good, perfect,
October.
perfect. That's good, good. So we got 25 on that. All right, so we're at 0. So if we look ahead as to how we want to grow, how can you grow in this framework right here, accountability 1? What are some suggestions?
Well, I'm sorry, say that, what was the question?
If we look at this as a reflection of, oh, we're right here in this first column. If we want to move forward to the others, what do we need to do to grow?
Okay, well, we need to have the tracking the use of time, and now, and with the help with Michelle, I think we can get that done. And to continue to grow, I need clarification on number 3 on the begins focus column. What does that mean? The superintendent's evaluation of performance, compliant, partially compliant, non-compliant. What does that mean? So that we can successfully.
You're looking at the board tracker, that top.
Accountability 1,
Yes?
Yes.
begins focus. Right here's number 3.
Number 3.
Oh, the little number, I was like, where's the 3? Gotcha, the number 3, go ahead. The number 3, the superintendent's evaluation of performance,
Mm-hmm.
not met, approaching, meeting, and mastering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what was your question?
What does that mean?
Okay. So what that is that when you're looking at the superintendent's evaluation, that like T-test, T-PES, that there is a movement between here to there and recognizing that there's growth opportunities in that as well.
Okay, so my question is, because as we've been practicing, I've been on the board 3 years.
Okay.
We only cover the superintendent's evaluation once a year. So now we're supposed to do it more often?
No, this is just an opportunity to look at the evaluation tool itself to see what is it measuring and how is it being, what is it measuring and how is it being, how is it
To make sure that
communicated
there's
is the word I'm looking
movement,
for.
that there's
To see-
movement.
Yes, that it's not, it's an opportunity for the superintendent to see growth or to see decline, but it's not just check boxes of done, done, done. It's an opportunity for you guys to look at the evaluation tool itself for the superintendent. I know AJ has talked about TEA offering some other opportunities for that.
So right now, the instrument has a 3-point scale. Maybe the very first step is moving to a 4-point scale and identifying these 4
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
items as each of those 4 scales. And then converting, and we've talked already about converting the evaluation to align with Lone Star Governance, so. Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's just an opportunity for you to look at your tool, and if you would like to make changes, just recommendations. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Great question. I'm sorry I got stuck on the word communication.
That's okay.
All right. So as we look at growth, we see a couple of areas of growth. We've looked at the evaluation of the superintendent. We've looked at monitoring calendar. Any other points anybody would like to bring out before we move on to the next one? Once again, I really do appreciate the humility you're showing, you know what, we're ready to grow and we're ready to do more for our kids, because it really does say a lot about you. Ed, you have something else to share?
Yeah, so when you're looking at that third column about approaches focus, something that may help you as you move to the next phase, it talks about an 18-month calendar. Currently, you have a 12-month calendar.
Okay.
So the third piece. Yes, so just looking at, and as you become more comfortable, it'll be easier. It's the first time out.
Sure.
So, and you can go beyond the 18 months, and don't feel that you lock it in as in stone. You can change that just like
Yeah,
sometimes
that's
you
what
have
we
to
did
change.
earlier.
Yeah.
When we want more reporting on certain things.
Great. Y'all doing a great job through this. Good.
Can I have clarification? So it's my understanding that on the preparing to focus, we have met that. So we get a 1,
No, because we haven't done the superintendent's evaluation.
but although we did it during that process, we mentioned that we were going into the Lone Star Governance tool and using that. So that doesn't count to give us a 1.
Because we're not using the Lone Star Governance evaluation tool.
Right. But I mean, we're heading towards that direction.
Yeah, and so we complete it, then we get it. Good try, Connie.
Close.
It's your evaluation.
All right, accountability 2. Board measures and communicates, but does not interfere in progress towards vision and student outcome goals.
I gave us a 0.
0, accountability 1. 0, no good.
0.
No 0.5?
Not this
All right.
0.25.
Okay.
So, help me with that. Why not a 0.5? I'm trying to get you your 0.5.
The reason why, the second bullet on the begins focus,
Uh-huh.
I'm using the first Lone Star.
That's
manual,
okay, we
so-
can follow it.
That's what.
You're right.
So it says the most recent board self-evaluation took place no more than 12 months ago using this instrument or a research-aligned instrument. Though we evaluated in June,
Yes.
we hadn't adopted, so I couldn't successfully give us that because we're adopting later in this meeting.
Okay.
So that's why.
Again, we applaud you for pointing that out. So, okay, so we're at 0 on this one. Structure?
All right, now we'll look at structure. Just a couple more to go. The board delegates to the superintendent operational authority to accomplish the vision and student outcome goals. Where do you see yourself?
I said 4.
I said 4.
Have a couple of 4s.
I say 1.
1?
I say 1.
Okay, we've got a couple of 1s, 3 1s, and 2 4s. So let's look at 1 and see if anything in there might hold us up. Let's look at 1 for a moment. Those that say 4, what do you have evidence for everything in 1? Change it up a little. Look at 1. Do we have evidence for everything inside of 1?
Okay, I gotta change it to a 1 because that last 2 bullets, well, the community engagement, I think we haven't done yet.
Yeah, that's going to come back and get us a little bit. But once again, let's look at what we've done successfully. We've used it on campus level. We can bring it to the board level. You can bring it to the board level. Very doable. So as a group, do we realize it's not a 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I had put that.
Go ahead, please.
Because when we consolidated campuses, we did engage the community. I mean,
Oh, true.
are you saying that we didn't engage it enough or on a different level? I understand that could be growth. But we did have community meetings. So I don't know, I checked one off
Okay.
because of that.
Right, and that's fine. If you look at the very top, the board delegates to the superintendent operational authority to accomplish the vision and student outcome goals. So anything specifically about student outcome goals and the vision with the community, that's why it is.
Yeah,
But if we asked the community, we didn't listen to what they wanted.
Yeah, but it wasn't relevant to the vision and student outcome.
Right, and that's what it comes down to. Yes, y'all are doing, honestly, you're doing a great job through this, okay? So we're good there. What did we land on there?
So then-
One? Okay.
Wait. How can we get a 1 if we haven't done community engagement in reference to the vision and student outcome goals?
well, yeah, so.
So then
if
we're
we
back
take
to
out
0.
Community engagement, then we're at 0.
So are you tracking your minutes by the categories? Don't
Yes.
go for coverall bingo. It doesn't mean you have to have minutes in every single one.
Yes, we are tracking it.
That's where I think you give yourself the what one.
Okay.
Now, later you can come back and say, well, we want to have so many minutes. So that may be very ambitious, but the fact that you're attributing where we're spending our time.
Okay.
Great discussion. Thank you.
Hmm.
All right, so the next one is advocacy. The board promotes the vision.
But, I'm sorry, can we go back to structure?
Yes?
Then why don't we get a 4? Because I think we do those 2 bullets in 4.
Oh, yeah, no, so, yeah, if we check off 1, then I think we check off 4, yeah.
Good. And it's your own self-evaluation,
Yes,
so what student?
all consent eligible items includes but is not limited to personnel. As board president, I've done that. So a lot of those are under consent. The second paragraph says the board limits its adoption of local policies regarding district operations to matters that are required by law or an appropriate exercise of the board's oversight authority as defined by the boards. I think we do that as well.
Yeah, I think we get a 4.
But it says of local policies, and there are a lot of local policies out there that is, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Savetta, like the one about the, where it has to come to the board to have used facilities, and it should be more operational, it should really be the superintendent's.
Yeah, we adopted that
We adopted that
That.
Okay, are there other policies that need to come to the board that don't need to come to the board that's more operational?
Oh, yes,
And
there
it's-
probably
and
is,
it's-
but
and
that's
it's-
for
And if
the
it
growth part of it,
does,
right? I
if
mean,
it
that's-
does, it's under consent. And
Good.
so it's not,
So
so I
there's,
think we're abiding by the approaches. I don't think we're at the meat focus yet. But I think we are at the approach focus.
definitely, so, sorry.
I'm sorry, I still go back to the one, to the parent to focus on the last one, the community engagement and other. I still don't feel like we really met that yet.
We haven't met it, but we track it.
But unless you've met it, you can't go to the end, to the approaches focus.
Well, so if we look at the header on that one, right underneath the light colored one, it says, the board tracks its use of time.
And
So
we
it's
already
on-
do that.
so the first step of it is, are you tracking your time? Because tracking it then leads to awareness.
Right.
And that's what you're now working with is, okay, now that we know that, what are we doing? But in that column, it just asks, are you paying attention in your meetings
To these items.
to where you're putting your time? Okay.
So we are tracking it, and that's why,
Similarly, I think in the approaches focus, there are 2 things. One, that you're aware before you adopt local policies of, is this absolutely necessary? What are the implications?
And yes, and we have had that discussion.
And then the
So it
second,
doesn't get in there.
right, so the second part of that is, as we review the policies that are already in place, are we putting that filter on?
Everything already know. Dr. Sloan?
yeah, so that's a growth model. I mean, we're always gonna be, there's always room for opportunity for growth.
Yes.
But are we starting to do some of those things? I think we are.
So as a board, number 4?
I'm going back to this number 1.
Go ahead. Sure.
Because you can't go to the approaches focus 4 until you've met preparing to focus, including the last one says community engagement. So how can you move forward to a 4, even though we may have met all of those, but if we've not gone back to 1 and met that community engagement, how do you move forward?
So again, this is about, do you have a process? Do you have a process where you're tracking your time? So I don't know whether that has come back to the board, but the documents we were working with Michelle, we went back and started in August, I think. We looked back at your meetings and started looking at the tracking. Now again, whether you all have had a chance to review it may lead to that being only a 1.
It's not so much about community engagement, it's about tracking it. And that's what this column is about, tracking.
So, but have we really been tracking the
Yes.
so-called community
I don't
engagement?
know if
Michelle has it.
you sent that piece to everybody, right?
Well,
Where you've been tracking the minutes?
I send them to you.
Oh, to me? Okay, so I've been getting them.
It's
It's taking track, I've been
But I feel
tracking.
like she's gonna tell us right now.
And it's actually in the minutes that you approve. It's in the minutes. If you look at the minutes, it'll say what time you
Yeah, it's like
started,
the
what
last
time you ended for each item.
Okay. So we are tracking?
Yes.
So I guess for clarification then,
Sure.
so whatever's on the minutes, that's considered community engagement?
No,
No.
no, we haven't met that piece. There hasn't been any community engagement in our board meetings,
Right.
but we are tracking it. There hasn't been any, but we've been tracking it.
So there's none.
Correct, there's none.
So
But
if
this
there's none,
isn't asking
move forward?
if we've done it. This
This
is
is,
just
yeah,
asking if
we're
we've
tracking
tracking.
it.
aware?
And we are aware that there has not been any community engagement.
So we have a process in place to do that?
To tracking, yes.
But tracking it is the process.
Yes.
Well, because if we track it, then we know we're not doing it, right?
Right.
So now we
Now we
can
can
do
track.
something about it. Yeah.
All right, we'll go with 4.
All right. I mean, we could just go to 12, actually.
All right, moving on to advocacy, the board promotes the vision. Where do you
I said
see
0.
0.
And this is where your piece is, Mrs. Carl.
Now you
Yes.
get it. There you go.
Exactly.
The board has not arranged for any community engagement activities during the previous 12 months. We haven't done that in reference to our vision and student outcome goals. So that's why it's a 0 for me. Do we all agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had 0. Sorry, I had 0.
All right, and the last one, if you'll flip, unity. The board works collaboratively with the superintendent to lead toward the vision and student outcome goals. It's a very full framework right there, lots of bullets to hit.
I said 0.
I checked 0 on unity as well.
And I'll ask you what made you go to 0? Where do you see the first shortcoming?
I think the first bullet, we haven't really done our board operating procedures. There's one there, but we, as a board, with this new training, we haven't gone through it.
Good, and I appreciate your honesty with that and your transparency with that.
Well, and we haven't
We haven't
voted
voted
to
yet.
quarterly report.
No.
Yeah, we haven't.
We're just
We're
gonna
getting
go
to it
over
today.
later today.
So already you'll grow.
Yes.
In the next 30 minutes, you will have growth.
Yes.
We'll have half a point.
Hey, I told you we would get you there. I marked this one down, and I said, I bet we get there. All right, so this one will be at a 0, and the opportunity to grow is just right around the corner. As we conclude, we were here just to facilitate, to give you the opportunity to discuss, because it really is a self-evaluation, discussion between board members, and the opportunity to self-evaluate. We are here not to judge you, but just to give you some recommendations and things to think about. And I think we had some very, very valid discussion points and great communication. Once again, appreciate the honesty you had. Thank you.
So, Nicole, before we
Yes.
end this piece, should we discuss the next quarter targets?
And that's what, as we look at a total, do you have our total for us?
I got 22.5, unless I had it wrong.
I have 22.
Well, there's a .5 in there.
That's the next part we were going to go ahead.
Okay,
I thought Vision 4
Yeah,
was
it's
25.
23.5.
Okay, can we go
So-
over every? Yeah.
so Vision 1, what did we get?
Yes.
12.
12,
Vision 2,
4,
Vision 3,
3,
Vision 4,
0.5.
5,
Okay.
Accountability 1,
0,
Accountability 2,
0,
Structure,
4.
Advocacy,
0,
Unity,
0.
So
23.5.
Good, good.
So as you look at that form that you have, you'll see things will begin to shift. Okay, so you're prepared for the next quarter, so probably around the January timeframe, to look at that. But look at the growth. You went from 4 to 22.
22.
And
Well
we're-
done.
Yes. The target is a 20% growth. But
Okay.
clearly, you've exceeded that. Okay? So as you look forward, where do you want to set your targets?
You said it needs to be a 20% growth?
Yes. To meet a standard.
Okay.
Now, again, if you don't make it, it's just, I mean, it's growth. Okay?
Right. So for Vision 1 board members, do you think we'll hit that 15?
What's our next target?
January.
January.
No? Okay, so then leave it at 12. Vision 2, we're at a 4. Do you think we'll increase?
I think we'll do,
Vision 2.
what was
Oh, yeah, we would go to a
was those
12.
Was those 4
Mhm.
strengths? So we can go to 12.
Vision 3,
Self-evaluation, we have to do it.
I think we can go to 9.
9.
9.
Vision 4, yeah, that's an easy fix on the 1. I think we can go to a 4.
I think we'll go to 4, yeah.
Accountability 1,
4.
yeah, I think we can go to a 4.
Do you think we'll be able to do a monitoring calendar that spans no fewer than 18 months?
Yeah.
January?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And then
On that
accountability.
one, I'm sorry, on that one, the challenge is going to be your constraints. In terms of your progress goals, they're already outlined. So you put them in by year, so that should help
It's
you.
just the constraints.
The constraints is going to be more of a challenge. It's doable, but just know that the work is already set in place for your student outcomes based on what you put into your calendar.
Okay. Accountability 2,
A 1?
yes.
A 1 or a 25?
No, we can do the 0.5 because we're doing that today.
By January 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by January, I think we could do a 1.
The 1?
Structure. We were at a 4, do you think we'll be at a 12?
I think so.
A consideration here as you look at that one, a challenge you're meeting, but just be aware of, is that second section where it says the board schedules no more than 5 topics during one board authorized public meeting. Okay, so it doesn't mean items, it says topics. So if you look at the bold section of your agenda, for example, tonight, they're right there. Okay, but just be aware, sometimes it's a challenge.
Okay, so topics being reports and presentations, consent, discussion and possible action, workshop. Oh yeah, we've had 4 today.
Yeah.
And usually we have 3.
Right, and that's great.
Do
So
not-
so as you look
So
at
five,
that, maybe
okay.
not much of a challenge at all.
And you do want to stretch yourself because you do want to, get more points this next quarter.
Okay, so I think it's a 12.
I think 12, yeah.
And then advocacy. This is huge, because we need to start getting our community involved. I think 1.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Unity. Then
Probably.
one. One.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we add those up. These 6 points? Is that right?
Yeah, 56.
Yeah. And I don't think we need any extra meetings. We do 2 a month. Okay. So no extra meetings needed. Okay, so 1 quarter ago, we had 4 total. Current quarter, we have 23.5. Next quarter target is 56 points, and then we do not need extra meetings. Is that correct?
Yes, because that does put us over 20% growth.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, I appreciate that. So now we are under consent. Policy BE local states that the consent agenda shall include items of a routine and recurring nature grouped together under one action item. All such items shall be acted upon by one vote without separate discussion, unless a board member requests that an item be withdrawn for individual consideration. The remaining items shall be adopted under a single motion and vote. So we have consent items 1 through 13, but I would like to pull out consent item number 2, because we do have individuals from the foundation. Board members, are there any other consent items you'd like to pull?
Ms. Osterby, number 9 and number 10.
Okay, number 9 and number 10. Okay, so do I hear a motion to adopt the consent items number 1, number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, and 13?
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made by Mrs. Guerra, seconded by Mrs. Prado. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Okay, number 2, Dr. Saavedra.
As I was beginning member of the board, Michael Valderrama has been a representative for the last 2 years or so with the South San Education Foundation, and I'm going to call on him to introduce our guests, and they have a presentation presented to the district.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. I would like to introduce Dr. Alma Ortiz, the president of the foundation, and she has some great news to share.
I feel like I should have brought my step stool. Thank you to the board, the superintendent, Dr. Castleberry, for allowing us this time to conduct this presentation. I'd like to introduce my fellow board members for the foundation, Bella Jimenez, Daryl Valderrama, Robert Stovall, and as Dr. Savannah pointed out, Dr. Valderrama, I'm getting ahead. Mr. Valderrama has been very instrumental in helping us keep on top of actions by the board and what's going on in the community. The major goal of the foundation is to support the success of our students here in South San Antonio ISD. And in the past, the foundation has awarded approximately $120,000 in scholarships to our graduating seniors. That said, we'd like to present a check to the district in the amount of $15,000 as a donation to enhance learning opportunities for our students here in the district. The donations will take the form as campus grants, and we'd like to allocate the money as follows. Each elementary school will be awarded $600. Each middle school will receive $1,200, and the high school will receive $6,000, and that'll total the $15,000. What we'll do with the grants is allow campus administrators discretion as to how those monies will be utilized, so long as they are student-centered and instructionally based. The aspiration of the grants is to complement other resources received by the district that are conducive to student success in the district. In the effort to continue to generate funds so that we may continue to grant scholarships and campus grants to benefit our students, one of the activities we have, as you see by the flyer on the display here, is an annual golf tournament. We will be having our 8th annual golf tournament the Monday, November 20th. That's the Monday before Thanksgiving. And what we would like to do is, Bella's going to give you all a personal invitation with the flyer, and we're hoping that you can support that golf tournament in any way, form, or fashion you can. If you're not a golfer, maybe you know golfers, or can encourage someone to sponsor a hole or an activity at the tournament. Again, I want to thank you for allowing us the time to appear before the board, and we look forward to continued collaboration so that we can continue to foster student success with individuals in our district. And I see the respective members are coming forth, so if we can approach for...
Can you join us for a picture?
Absolutely. I get to stand next to the tall one. This is indeed a pleasure to present this donation to the district.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
You have enough flyers?
If you need flyers or more information on the golf tournament, if I can impose on Dr. Saavedra and Michael Valderrama, if you forward those questions to them, I am certain they will get them to us. Thank you.
Anybody else interested in the golf tournament?
Before we move on, I'd like to take a 5-minute recess. The time is 8:26. So please accept. Back to open session. The time is 8:32 p.m. Board members, I'd like to recall the motion that was made to adopt the consent items number 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11, 12, and 13. For clarity, number 7 is ambiguous. There is no recommendation on there, so that will be pulled for discussion. Do I hear a motion to adopt consent items number 1, number 3, number 4? Wait, I'm sorry. Do I need a motion and a second to retract the motion?
Yes, Madam President, if there is an ambiguousness that requires discussion, we can revisit it on the Friday.
Okay, so then make a new motion, not including that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve consent items number 1, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 8, number 11, number 12, and number 13. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion has been made by Mr. Ibarra, seconded by Mrs. Flores. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Item number 2 has just been presented. Do I hear a motion to approve item number 2? Move to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Flores, seconded by Mr. Ibarra. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. For an item number 7, Dr. Saavedra.
Item number 7 is an agenda item requested by trustee Ms. Gamma. So I'm going to just turn it over to her to see what her recommendation is.
Okay, before I open this up for discussion, I'd like to hear a motion first.
I make a motion. I make a motion that we approve action item number 7, provide bus transportation to South San High School students who received transportation last year for 2016-17 and establish additional bus routes.
I second.
Okay, motion has been made by Mrs. Prado, seconded by Mrs. Guerra. Open for discussion.
What does provide additional bus routes mean?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mel.
To make things the way they were last year, this was thrown on the parents, no warning. They didn't have enough time to prepare, even though that some letters went out or emails went out. A lot of people didn't get enough notice. Last time it rained, I was going to work. There were kids walking to school, no buses. The bus used to stop by my house. So I always had kids waiting for the bus. By the time I was leaving, the bus was already picking them up. This time they were just walking somewhere else because the bus doesn't stop there anymore. And like I said, yesterday we had a big neighborhood meeting. There were a lot of parents still complaining about the same thing, still asking, what is the board going to do? Are you all just going to leave it like that? Or the little Band-Aids that have been put are not taking, it's not working. And I still get a lot of calls. So this is, I guess in their eyes, it's not a done deal. It wasn't fixed. So I just wanted to bring it back just so we could have another chance to see if we can work something out, do something better, to do it slower.
So what does provide additional bus routes mean and the?
Just to leave it like it was, give them a time to prepare. I mean, maybe for the next couple months till school ends, and then by next year when they start, they'll know what to expect.
But I'm saying, in your motion, you're saying students who received transportation last year. So that's pretty much taking care of those. And then you're saying establish additional bus routes. I'm just trying to get clarification on that.
Can I clarify, only because I read the motion, and I think I understand what it means. I think what it means is that you're not adding additional bus routes, is that you reinstate the bus routes that were deleted from last year. Those kids that were taking the bus, they had bus routes, and they were cut out from the number of bus routes that we have now. So just reinstate those bus routes. I think that's what that said. It's not an additional bus routes, it's reinstate what was cut last year.
But you're already saying that in students who received transportation last year. That's last year. That's those kids that were cut. But now you're saying and. So that means you're adding additional bus routes.
Well, I can, if you'd like, I can amend it to be more clear, if that is what you're asking for.
Okay, so you make the motion, you can amend another motion, is that correct?
Yes, Madam President, we will need action on that motion, and then either another board member can amend, or you can withdraw that motion, and then an additional board member, you can administer the motion.
Okay, so I can withdraw the motion and then do a new motion.
Withdraw the motion, and the board president would call for a motion.
Okay, now we have another motion.
Let me just, can I offer an amended motion?
Trustee Grant?
So here, it's this long. You want me to read it?
Yes. A motion has to be read. Do you have copies?
I don't, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I'll read it and then I'll hand it, and I'll pass it by y'all. How's that? So I move that the effective date of board action taken on May 17th.
But don't Mr. Ybarra, before you read it, we're going to make copies, is that okay?
That's fine with me.
Michelle, would you go make some quick copies? Good. In the meantime, can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Michelle, listen.
Can I just clarification? Will this be a substitute motion to the main motion, or is this a separate motion?
I don't know if it's supposed to be called substitute or amended.
My understanding is you are amending the language of the motion as presented, is that correct? You're
No.
adding, you're added to it.
I'm gonna give a different motion right now.
Is there a significant relation to the motion on the table, or would you say this is a severe deviation?
It's more specific.
More specific. Madam President, I'm going to say this is a substitute motion at this time.
Okay,
So how does the substitute motion work?
so I have to get a second on that. Once I read it though, right?
Correct.
And then we vote on the substitute motion for the main motion?
That is correct. It is essentially as if the primary motion has been withdrawn and replaced without going through the recalling question. So I think we will be okay. It is my advice this time that we will be okay with the calling of the motion, of the substitute motion in a second.
Okay. So let's get the copies first and then he'll read it. Oh, yes. Dr. Slither.
Let me just, I guess, inform the board that any motion that makes reference to bus transportation to South San High School students who received transportation last year in 2016-17, it's going to be difficult to determine. And primarily because the district did not maintain records on which students rode buses last year to any of the schools. The other thing to keep in mind is that you have a senior class last year that is no longer with us. You have a freshman class at the high school today that was not at the high school last year and therefore not receiving transportation. And we're likely to establish a system that will transport part of the high school, but not all of the high school. Does that make sense?
We ready to read? For me to read it?
Yes.
So I move that the effective date of board action taken on May 17, 2017, and any related action by the board after December 1st, 2016, having the effect of reducing transportation routes provided by the district is delayed until June 1st, 2018. And that no later than March 31st, 2018, the superintendent is required to present recommendations for a substitute transportation plan, including specification of hazardous routes that has been developed after considering documented feedback from the community. Any changes that make new school choice options available to students under the district System of Great Schools initiative, as well as any other relevant changes in district operations or policy. And that from October 23rd, 2017, until July 1st, 2018, the exact transportation routes in effect during the 2016-17 school year will be reinstituted and remain in effect. And routes instituted due to consolidations and bilingual clustering, unless the superintendent documents that after implementation of the restored routes for at least 45 school days, fewer than 20 students participate in a route on 50% or more days, in which case the superintendent may combine that route with another route that accommodates the participating students affected or implement another solution that accommodates those students. And that if the board does not adopt a substitute transportation policy and resolution specifying hazardous routes by June 1st, 2018, the transportation policy hazard route resolution and waivers in effect as of October 16, 2017 will be reinstated and effective immediately.
I second.
Okay, a substitute motion has been made by Mr. Ibarra and seconded by Mrs. Flores. Open for discussion.
Can I say something about the motion?
Yes, it's open for discussion.
Okay, so I totally support instituting bus routes. I do, and I supported that action, and I stand behind that decision. So I'm not wanting to reverse any kind of decision that the board has made. I want to stick to that decision. I just want to postpone that decision and make it effective at a later time. I commend the superintendent and all the efforts that he's made to try to correct the bus route situation, but I feel like at this point, we need to regress back, reinstitute routes, and take it from there. I would like to say that I think we can monitor the routes, and we can make adjustments to the routes like I put in the motion and cut busing routes out if needed and when that situation presents itself. But until then, I think we owe it to the community to do this.
Dr. Sylvester, do you have any say in this? Do you have anything to say?
I guess I would, in order to be able to implement or do what the board wants us to do, it would be helpful if the motion is more clear. Honestly, I don't know what you mean by everything you read. I mean, I'm just being honest about it.
What part?
If the motion is intended to put in place what we had last year, then that would be more clear to me. But there's a lot of
Well,
language here
that's what it says. It says to reinstate the transportation routes that were effective in 2016-17 school year. And then it says besides that, to keep the routes that you instituted because of bilingual clustering and consolidations, because you did add routes this year, and I totally understand that. So I don't want to cut those routes out. I want to keep those as well.
Okay, not sure how long it will take us to figure this one out, as to how many more drivers we'll need, how many more buses we might need, we may not. We might be able to do it with the buses we have, because I know we have spare buses. But the drivers, we don't necessarily have. Right now, I don't know exactly how long it will take us to put this back in place, because we will be increasing the level of transportation that we had last year.
Right.
We will have what we had last year, plus whatever we've already added this year.
I understand. So the projection that the administration gave us of $170,000, I took as a dollar amount that it was gonna take to get us back to last year.
But
So-
you're giving administration a way out that you'll be monitoring how it goes. If it's not working at any time, they can change it, right?
That's in the motion, yeah.
It's open to.
Yeah, after 9 weeks, about 45 days.
I mean, I think after 45 days, you'll know who's riding the bus.
Yeah, the challenge is not so much that, the challenge is going to be actually starting the service. In essence, gear up to that level of service, how quickly we can do that, I really don't know. We'll have to work on it and see what we can do to try to determine when we could reinstitute that. And I'm assuming that the best we're going to be able to do is basically reestablish the routes from last year without any regard as to whether a kid received a ride last year or not. Because like I said, there's no way we can identify who got on the bus last year.
And I totally understand that degree of difficulty, I do. But other than doing that, I don't see how we can make this situation whole again. So I think if you can just say that there's a time frame that you can tell me, in other words, if it's 2 weeks, is it 4 weeks? Whatever the time frame is, as long as we know a time frame when you can try to get some information back to us on
Well, I
this.
think we also need to make sure that in order for this to be successful, that the parents are notified. Something either on the website or something sent home to notify the parents that their bus routes will be reinstated. Whatever the bus routes were last year will continue. Make sure your kids are there to ride the bus, because how else are they going to know? So if we want this to be successful, we need that ADA, we need those kids to come to school. And we have to remember, inclement weather is on the way, and we're going to need those bus routes.
So,
Hold on. Okay, so people are talking out of turn. Mr. Ibarra, you had the floor. Are you done?
All I was gonna say was, I think the same method that we used in the summer to notify parents is what we can use to notify them now. Moving forward, I think I kind of identify what we should do as a district to inform the community. But, you know.
Okay, Mrs. Prado?
No, I've said what I got to say. Thank you.
Dr. Sylvester?
I guess keeping in mind, first of all, I can't respond to the question, how quickly can we do this? Honestly, I need to get together with the staff and really study this to what length of time it will take us. And as soon as we have an estimate, we certainly will notify the board, let the board know. I also want the board to keep in mind that, and you help me with this, Mr. Bissett, but about 1,200 students are eligible right now to ride buses, eligible. And about only 600, about half of the league actually ride buses. If at any point, the additional 600 that are not riding right now, that are eligible, decide to get on buses, and we add the additional routes, honestly, I don't know that we even have enough buses to do all of that. I mean, ordering buses, I'm guessing would be 6 to 8 weeks. At about 100,000 pop for new buses, if we have to do.
It'll be longer than that.
Or whatever it may be.
What are we looking at? 7 months?
When you order a bus, it takes about 6 months. It's got to go to factory. It has to, we spec it what we want, and it has to go to factory. It's just like BMW, Mercedes-Benz. When you get offline, you're not going to go off the lot. You got to order a special order, and they design it for you. So anywhere from 4 to 6 months for a new bus.
And clearly we're talking just off the cuff right now because we've not had time to study this. We probably will need some time to study it, a few days at least, to try to determine what exactly do we have to put in mind. Because, clearly, once we tell folks you have a ride, we don't want to tell them you no longer have a ride, because we don't have space on the bus for you. It would seem to me that we would have to gear up to be able to transport the 1,200 that are eligible today and the additional ones that were not provided transportation that road last year. Whatever that magic number might be, is what we would have to be able to gear up to.
So when we made the adjustment for the hazardous route of Highway 16, we allotted 3 routes over there. We cut 2 of those 3 routes already, correct?
We cut 1 or 2?
That's correct, 2.
2, okay.
So the adjustment was made because the people didn't ride the bus. That's all I'm asking to do right now, is let's put some buses out there, let's put some routes out there, and if they don't ride the bus, then we cut those routes back. See, if we allotted 3 routes across Highway 16, because of that adjustment, and we only needed 1,
right?
We cut 2 back, and that all happened within the first 6 weeks of school.
But what happens, Mr. Ibarra, when we have an extremely cold day or rainy day or after football season, the kids don't have, they practice, now they're being dismissed at 4 o'clock, let's say the high school 4:10, and now I want to ride the bus, even though I've not ridden the bus for the first 3 months, you know what I mean? The busing situation fluctuates based on when students are told whether you qualify, you're eligible to ride or not. And if you're eligible, it doesn't mean you get that you have to ride every day. It means they can pick and choose when they ride. And we have 600 of those type of students that at any day could decide to get on, and other days, so, I mean, I see us
They have that opportunity to do that now.
No, they do.
They're eligible to ride right now.
That's right, they do. But we're adding whatever number of additional routes on top of what we have to cover now.
But the amounts is eligible, are you trying to say that the amount of eligible students is going to grow?
No, the 1,200 or so that we have will remain, but we would have to add, let's just say there's 600 from last year that are not riding this year. So from 1,200, we go up to 1,800 now, correct? Assuming that's, I really don't know what the number is, Could be 100, I don't know what it is. And that's what, it's a moving target for us in trying to identify this. And then the other thing is, if we have to buy buses, hopefully we don't, but if we do, are we buying them till the end of the school year and then try to lease them till the end of the year? And then, as you say, we might pull back in June.
I think those recommendations come when we've had that information.
Yeah.
So here's the numbers. Right now, we have 1,320 students that are assigned to routes across the
What was that number? I'm sorry.
1,320. Okay. And only
This is just for high school?
This is the high school. 596 of those students are currently, on average, are currently riding. So that's 45%.
Okay, so out of the 1,320, we actually have forms that they filled out and they're eligible? Or are we going on what basis?
These are students that have been routed on the bus, based on where they live, based on whether they're eligible or whether, waivers. Correct.
So, and the 596, they filled out the forms and requested?
Those are, when the student registers and pays, okay, it hits my database and it puts a dot on the map. And they're eligible to ride based on being further than 2 miles. So we create the bus.
So her question was, the 596 do have forms filled out. The ones that are writing.
No.
The 596 do not have forms filled out.
It
Not
is.
if they're over 2 miles. If they're over 2 miles, they fill out a form.
If they're over 2 miles, they don't fill out a form?
No, they're not.
Okay, so this brings me to my next question. Because what's instituted right now is a waiver, correct? If you live within 1.5 miles, you get on a bus. We direct you to fill out a form. And it's also been said that if one of the 596 who doesn't have a form decides to ride that bus that day, how do we know that they're eligible before someone who has a form? Is there a list that these bus routes have for the 596 students?
So correct. So every route has a roster of the students that are, when we say eligible students, we mean those who live outside of 2 miles.
Yes, the 596.
Correct. They're eligible to ride, okay? We provide the service, okay? The forms, the 1.5, there's some of those in there as well.
Those are under the waiver.
With the
So
waiver.
explain to me right now how that waiver process works. Let's say I live outside the 2 miles. I'm a student. I go to the high school. I live outside the 2 miles, but I have not ridden the bus since the first day of school. I decide to ride the bus tomorrow. There are other students on the bus that are on the waiver, which are 1.5 miles and closer, between 1.5 and 2 miles. How does that bus driver know that I get on, and if the bus is full, that one of those persons gets off? How does that work?
So they all have a roster, and part of the roster also tells them how far each student lives from the school. The software we use tells us all that information. We have to manually, all the waivers have to do what we call an exception. They live in a walk zone, but we're going to give them the waiver that they qualify, so we have to go in there manually and put an exception that adds them to that roster as well.
And so the bus drivers have access to this roster
They get a roster every day.
every day?
They have a book with a roster of all their kids, with a stop, every stop they have to make for each school. I mean, it's.
Okay, and so based on that system, how many waiver students have we had to boot off?
At this time?
Yes. None. Do you anticipate any of those students being booted off?
Including weather.
Do you have a report stating that more students ride the bus when it's raining, or less students ride the bus when it's raining?
We don't, I mean, we're going to route, our bus can carry 48 students, okay, and every district does this. We're going to route the bus to about 65, 70 kids, and we're going to just hope that 70 kids don't show up, because then we're going to have to add another bus out there, okay? But the numbers, if you see the numbers, they're not getting on the bus. That's how we determine that, okay, how much room do we have on the bus? We have 20 waivers at the high school. Can we fit 20 kids on these buses? That's how we put them on there, based on the space availability. And, I think you guys have the numbers already of what we allow, based on the waiver. But, I mean, all the routes are in the district. I mean, you're going to route them for over that 48, and just hope that, and the numbers will show that. I mean, 32% at elementary level, 42%. At 45 at the high school and 60 at the junior high. That's the percentage right.
Board members, or do you have any questions?
When you say students are picked up from Monday to Friday, is it generally the same students, the same number of students, or does it vary during the days of the week?
Yeah, I mean, we're not really sure which ones come on. We do by name counts. As a matter of fact, we're doing our first one tomorrow. We're going to actually, ask their name before they board the bus. So, we'll have those. We'll have some of those.
That's the first time that's done? If the bus driver actually asks for the.
We're required to do it at least twice annually.
Twice.
Twice annually.
But if there's, say, 30 students taking a bus Monday, does it necessarily mean that there'll be 30 students in that bus every day of that week? Or it varies?
Yeah, it varies. You know, it just depends on, you know, someone might be in athletics or band or some of those things. I mean, the numbers will pick up some once football's over and band. The numbers will start to pick up a little bit more.
And usually the number of students that you bring in the morning is not necessarily the same number of students that you take back for that bus?
That's correct, ma'am. Usually in the afternoon, there's a lot more students around.
Madam Chair, I call for the question, please.
What does that mean?
That means we take a vote.
Okay. So we are taking a vote on the substitute motion that Mr. Ibarra made. I'd like a roll call, please. Please raise your hand. Those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Those not in favor? Motion carries.
You still have to vote.
Now, we make that the main motion.
That's what I was gonna ask. We still have to vote.
Madam Chair, I withdraw with my main motion.
No, his becomes the main motion.
No, yours was a substitute.
But we voted for it, so now it
Yes.
becomes the main
So-
motion, so we got to vote for his substitute motion as the main motion, correct?
That's correct, Madam President. We essentially replaced.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would be an amendment.
All right.
That's the procedural difference is that we have to vote to
So
replace
we're
that with
voting
substitute.
again for what we just voted for.
Essentially,
correct. That's what we've been doing since Kevin became our lawyer. So the main motion is now, the substitute motion is now the main motion. So those in favor, roll call please, those in favor of the main motion, say aye. Aye, raise your hand, roll call. Those in favor, those not in favor, say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to consent item number 9. Discussion and possible action to approve the installation of elevated platform bleachers to include ramp, stairs, and front walkway for the South San Antonio High School softball field. Mrs. Bravo, you pulled this consent.
Thank you.
Before we go into discussion, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just have 1 or 2 questions on this. Is it Mr. Becerra? Are you going to? Are the questions to you? Mr. Blizzard? Okay. My question is, looking at this and the timeline, the bleachers, it looks like the starting date for the bleachers is December 1st, and the ending completion date is December 30th. So is there something that says that we hold the vendor accountable if it is not done on time as they said it's going to be done? I mean, what if they say, I'm sorry, we can't get it done, it's not going to be till the end of January? You know, can we hold them accountable because they didn't complete the project like they had anticipated or they had said they would?
Liquidated damages in the contract. Is there that clause in there?
There's not liquidated damages, no, sir. That was in the contract. It's just a quote invoice, or quote budget that came from the company. So there was not a damage assessments or liquidated damages for time.
Okay. Because my concern is that we're going to cut it pretty close. The season starts in January, if I'm not mistaken. And then the other issue is holidays are coming up. Are the vendors going to be allowed to continue their work during the holiday when the district is closed?
Yes, ma'am. And this is the same company that did our fabrication of our gym repairs and service. So they're a very reputable company. I've known them across the state as well. They've not missed a deadline I've worked with them.
And the bleacher work will not interfere with practice on the field. So even if they are delayed, it still wouldn't prevent the team from getting on the field and practicing.
Okay, that was all I had for number 9, but for number 10, if I may, Madam Chair, do you need to read that first?
We need a vote on number 9 first.
Oh,
before
okay.
we move to number
I make
10.
a motion then that we approve item number 9, which is the installation of elevated platform bleachers to include ramp, stairs, and front walkway for the South San Antonio High School football field to be completed no later than December 30th, 2007. I'm sorry, softball field. To be completed no later than December 30th, 2017.
Okay, I hear a motion, do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, motion has been made by Mrs. Prado, seconded by Mrs. Guerra. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 10, Mrs. Prado?
Thank you. On number 10, pretty much the same question on the completion and the start and completion date on that as well. I think those are in November. I don't see a problem with that. My concern was the holiday as well, since the district is closed, and I just want to make sure that they're still allowed to come in and work on the scoreboard. And in their contract on number 10, or the description, it speaks to something called a scoreboard controller. Who will that be?
The controller is the device that activates the scoreboard itself.
So it's not an individual?
It's the device that actually activates the scoreboard, changes the score, changes the numbers on the scoreboard.
So there's not a person that activates it? How does it know what score to put on there or not? I mean, it's not a robotics question.
There will be an individual who is operating the controller.
Okay, that is my question. So somebody will be operating it?
Yes.
Okay. And will that individual be responsible for that apparatus in case something goes wrong?
Well, the person responsible for the apparatus is going to be the athletic officers. They'll have that, and it'll either be with the athletic directors or the head softball coach. I'm not quite sure how they're going to sort through that.
But it will be an employee of the district.
Yes.
Because as you know, some of our games, we have people that are there announcing and running the scoreboard that are not employees. So we don't want that liability if sometimes it's a scoreboard and they're not an employee, then what happens? Okay, all right, so it's going to be an employee of the district. Okay, those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Do I hear a motion for number 10?
I make a motion. I make a motion that we approve the purchase of a scoreboard for South San Antonio High School softball field to be completed November 31st. The end of November of 2017.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, motion has been made by Mrs. Prado, seconded by Mrs. Guerra. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Now we move to discussion and possible action. Number 1, discussion and possible action to approve the starting pay for bus driver positions that do not require a CDL at $13 per hour.
Move to approve.
Do I hear a second? Second. The motion has been made by Mr. Ibarra, seconded by Mrs. Flores. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 2, discussion and possible action to increase the starting pay for bus driver positions that require a CDL to $14.75 per hour. $14.75 per hour.
Move to approve.
The motion has been made by Mr. Ibarra. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded has been made by Mrs. Flores. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 3.
There's one, just thinking of closing the bridge.
Okay. So, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Move to adjourn. Do I hear a second? Motion has been made by Mrs. Flores, seconded by Mrs. Guerra. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The time is 9:08.